I'm going to reiterate a little bit of hypothetical that I put online yesterday as a short that I said I was going to do a longer video about today just so we can understand where we're at. So let's say a person at a young age comes here, maybe 14, 15, they come here with their family. The family gets green cards because they're here for some kind of a protective status, like refugee status, asylum status, or some other protected status. So they're here properly with green cards, but that kid grows up in 18, 19, 20, 21, somewhere around there, he commits a felony. Because he commits a felony, even though he was here since age 14, 15, his green card will be permanently revoked. The green card is revoked, and um, he's subject to immediate deportation. Sometimes, when immediate deportation isn't practical, either because the country's not taking them back, or because even though the country might take them back, if they go back, they're subject to persecution or other reasons for refugee status, or they have some serious illness or some family to take care of, or anything of that nature. For humanitarian reasons, we put them on what's called OSUP, OSUP, which is actually a judge's order of supervision. So at age 19 or 20, they get put on an order of supervision until the issue that caused the problem clears up. So has the humanitarian problem in their country gone away? Are they no longer going to be persecuted because the situation has improved? Has their health improved? Have their kids grown up? All sorts of stuff happens that gets people out of this OSUP status. So one of the things that can happen is an OSUP can be revoked for any reason at any time if the government decides they're no longer going to supervise you. If an OSUP is revoked, you're subject to immediate detention and then deportation. And so that's what's happening a lot. So you hear about people that have lived here 25, 30 years or whatever, and they're being detained and deported. Well, a lot of times those are OSUP people. So the hypothetical goes like this: that 18, 19, 20-year-old commits some sort of serious felony. We're not talking about something minor, some kind of serious felony, rape, child molestation, home invasion, category one. That means they went into a home with a gun and robbed somebody with a weapon while the people were in the home, or attempted murder or murder. So they have some serious felony and they do some prison time. When they get out of prison, we can't deport them. And so our choices are either deport them or keep them in detention. Well, for a long time, we held Cuban dissidents that came here illegally, but they committed crimes while they're here. We put them in prison, and instead of taking them out of prison, what we did was we just left them in detention status, and they stayed in prison the rest of their life because Cuba wouldn't accept them back, and we couldn't accept them in society. So we're allowed to detain people that are known to be a harm to society indefinitely, but eventually a judge could say this person's not going to be a harm to society, and so they don't deserve to be in prison the rest of their life under this supervision status, and we're going to release them under an order of supervision. So what an order of supervision does is it gives this person an ICE agent, social worker type of agent that holds them in a parole type status. They get given serious requirements that they have to submit to in order to stay under supervision. They're required to do regular check-ins with their ICE officer that they have to check in with at regular intervals, sometimes several times a year, sometimes a couple times a year. Some reduce it to as little as once a year. And then they, during this time, they're granted work authorization and allowed to stay in the country under work authorization. So this person, hypothetically, and there's a lot of these that happen. I mean, it's in the thousands. And so there's a lot of stories that you're going to hear on the news about somebody that's been raised in a family here, been here 25, 30 years, and yet they're being detained, even though they've been here under a temporary status legally. This is normally what those cases are. So they're under supervision. Age 19, 20, they go under supervision, and they report and they do what's required of them. After several years, they probably should have had their cases concluded and been deported because the situations in their country resolved, and all of that. But in the meantime, they get married, they start raising children. They've had several children. They're the main breadwinner so we keep them in this weird supervision status. It can be revoked at any time, and it can be revoked if you do something wrong. And so a lot of these people from, let's say, the late 90s to 2000 have been under the supervision status, sometimes for 25 or 30 years. At this point, when they go to their supervision meetings, we are removing supervision, detaining them, and getting ready to deport them. They have been told every time they go to one of these meetings that that is the probable result, that eventually your supervision is going to be terminated. Because you have a felony on your record, you'll never get a green card and be able to live permanently in this country, and you will be deported as soon as a president or a Department of Justice under ICE decides to no longer supervise you. We have no requirement to supervise these people, even though they've been in the country for a very, very long time. So what's happening now is a ton of people are under this supervision where we're paying ICE agents high levels of income. So a lot of these ICE agents that have been in the system for a long time doing this supervision, they spend their whole career supervising these 30, 40, 50 detainees. Immigrants that are here on temporary status. All they do is supervise them and meet with them several times a year to update their supervision status. We've been paying them over $100,000 each, some $140,000, some $150,000 to supervise these things. And the current administration, Trump administration, looks at this and says, why are we spending millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars supervising felons that we could have and should have deported at some point? And so what's happening now is Trump is winding down the supervision program and saying we are not going to supervise detainees with felony records anymore. We're going to deport them. Immigrants with felony records that can never live here legally and are here only on temporary status while we supervise them. We're going to terminate the supervision program and get them out of the country. So here we are, where somebody's been here 25 years, they have 6, 7 kids, 4 or 5 kids, however many kids they have, they're married, they're kids, they're the breadwinner, and now they're subject to deportation under this rule. So when they go to their supervision meeting, they're going to their supervision meeting, they've been to, a lot of these guys have been to 40, 50, sometimes some guys have been to 100 of these supervision meetings. When they go to it this time, the officer across the desk that has been supervising them now detains them, and another ICE officer comes in the room, puts them in handcuffs, and takes them away to a detention center. So what do we do next? So these guys are in detention centers, and they're subject to deportation because we are not going to pay to supervise them anymore, and they cannot get legal status because they've committed felonies in the past. Some governors, like Governor Whitmer in Michigan, where I live, have tried pardoning some of these guys, but ICE doesn't care about that, and the federal government doesn't care about that. The fact that you have it in your past, whether it's been pardoned or not, it's the action of doing it in the past that prevents you from getting the green card. It doesn't have to currently be on your record. It has to be something you did, and all of these guys either were tried and convicted or pled guilty to these type of crimes. And so there's nothing they can do to change the fact that they can never get a green card and stay in our country permanently. The question is, how long are we going to supervise them? And it's not a marriage, so it was expected to be till death do us part. So these people are going to these detention centers. They're applying for habeas corpus relief, which basically puts it in front of a district court judge. And these district court judges are saying, well, they're living in the community and for all this time, and therefore they are not a danger to the community. And they're putting them out on bond, which you put a bracelet on them and you release them to the community and they can go back to work, and they're out on bond, but they're still subject to deportation and going through the deportation system. And there's still no way for them to get a green card or for them to be allowed to stay. So it's delaying the inevitable, but at least at this point they're not being kept in the detention centers. They're allowed to go about their daily life while their deportation process is beginning again. When the supervision's revoked, the deportation process is going to continue. It may be very quickly. There is some incentive for ICE and the Department of Justice immigration courts to deal with detainees in the detention centers first and then ignore these, but I'm guessing that courts are going to start doing the rocket docket and getting everybody out of here. There's no reason, if these people can't remain under supervision and have to be deported, for them to remain on a docket under supervision, which isn't supervision, it's under restraint based on a bond, and they get the ankle bracelet and are remained under restraint. And so now they're not being supervised, but really they are being supervised because they're being monitored everywhere they go. They have limited travel. They can't do anything that would jeopardize their status, their bond status that would end up revoking their bond. So it's very similar to supervision, but now it's bond out. and they're still subject to immigration court relief, not district court relief, on whether or not they have to leave the country. So I'm expecting that these people will eventually have to leave the country. I don't know if that's the just thing to do or not. So as a Christian, I'm like, let's be compassionate with these guys. They've been in the country a long time, and we should have done something to resolve it sooner. It's kind of on America's government's fault that that we've gotten through Clinton and Bush and Obama and Trump and Biden, and now back to Trump before we decide to do something with these guys, because literally most of these guys were arrested that have been on this have been arrested in the 90s. Most of these guys are either from Iraq, Iran area that are subject to the Gulf Wars and fled people like Saddam Hussein and Muammar fled Ayatollah Khomeini out of Iran, or fled from Muammar Gaddafi, or people like that fled their countries and they came here. And there's other people from Asia, the Hmong people, or this is happening to Hmong people a lot. They committed felonies when they're younger, and they came here as children because the Hmong people were being genocided in Vietnam back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and so we allowed the Hmong people en masse to just move here under refugee status, and then the ones that committed felonies, once they got here, got put in this OSUP program, this order of supervision program, and have been in it for nearly a lifetime. The question is, what should we do with that? The Christian in me says, let's be empathetic toward these people and let's let them live out their days here and find a way to do that. But you also know that I'm a conservative and a rule of law guy, and I don't know why these people that did commit serious felonies and have been warned 40 to 100 times that they really should go back to their own country or find a different place to be deported to, and just willingly leave because they're never going to get a green card, why we should prefer them over other type of immigrants that have refugee status or that desire to come here as refugees or desire to come here for valid immigration reasons. I don't know why we should prefer these people other than the fact they've lived here a long time. And maybe that's enough, but legal-wise, the laws I'm reading and the regulations I'm reading and the cases I'm reading saying that's probably not enough. We should apply the rule of law and then let the cases through habeas corpus make its way up to the Supreme Court, or to come up with a different solution if there was one, which I don't think there is. I think the Supreme Court's going to say ICE can deport these guys, the immigration judges can deport these guys. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to intervene in this one. But also, let's do a legislative remedy. If the legislature wants to protect these people, and there's enough of them that they feel like they can protect literally the laws we're following for immigration that is allowing Trump, I think correctly, to deport a lot of people very quickly, are the 1996 Clinton immigration laws. Those laws can be amended by Congress with a signature of a president at any time. If we want to say if somebody has been under an order of suspension for X number of days or X number of years and has been an abiding citizen, abiding by the law, and has properly maintained OSUP status, that we want to let them be off of OSUP status and apply and keep their green cards. I don't mind that. I think that could be a good solution to this. I don't know if that happens in the current political environment, because I think there'd be enough Republicans to sign on to it that would want to do it. I think there'd be enough Democrats to sign on to it that would want to do it. I just think both sides are so hyperbolically attacking each other that they're never going to get anything like this done. I think the hyperbolic rhetoric and the constant caustic attitude in the legislature and in our government just really needs to tamp down so we can get something practical done. This would be something practical we could do to solve a problem of making sure felons aren't staying in the country, so we're going to revoke this supervision status while not being inhumane to people that have lived here for a very, very long time. But it needs to be the legislature. I don't think Trump should do it. I don't think the courts should do it. I don't think the Supreme Court should jump in and do it. I think there needs to be a legislative solution to this that says people that have been here under supervision for X number of days or X number of years are entitled to some special hearing to determine whether we should restore their green card status. The courts, from everything I read, the courts cannot restore green card status over and above the 1996 immigration laws and over and above the immigration courts. Remember, if you've watched my other video, you know that the immigration courts are part of the Department of Justice, not part of the district court district court, appeals court, Supreme Court, federal court system. They are not, they are not Article 3 courts. They are separate administrative courts operated solely by the executive branch and not the judicial branch, which I think are Article 2. I just think I misspoke that, but I don't want to redo this part of the video. So basically, they're not judicial branch courts. They're administrative law judges under the executive branch, because only the executive branch gets to decide whether or not somebody can be deported or not. Courts do not get to make that decision. The Supreme Court's made that very clear. Read some of the other local opinions. I'm going to be posting more and more Supreme Court opinions to understand where I'm coming from when I'm saying the courts do not jump into the exclusive nature of foreign affairs and immigration that was given in the Constitution to the executive branch, and no power given to the judicial or legislative branch. Legislative branch can make rules and laws regarding immigration, but the enforcement and decision on expulsion or remaining remains clearly within the executive branch. That's one of the reasons why immigration law just flies back and forth from administration to administration, because the executive branch gets to decide whether to enforce those laws and how they're going to enforce them or not. And so that's where we're at on this. Hope you got something out of this. If you do, please subscribe to my channel here. Please like this video, and I'm welcoming a lot of comments on this one. I'd like to have a discussion about where people feel like we should go next on this. Again, thank you for listening here.